Hey, what's up, guys? Matt and Ryan here with the DFS 5-pack. Pardon me if I'm a little bit tired. I stayed up a little late last night crying away my losses. Lost to Matt last night in our fantasy football championships by 1.5 points. I'm a little perturbed today, but we're going to work through it, Matt. I will try not to cry in front of you, and we will just talk about DFS instead.
Please do cry in front of me. I would love that. We talked about this yesterday. It was going to be shitty for whoever won, for whichever one of us lost. I knew that the loser was probably going to have a hard time with videos today. The one bright side is, though, we made a little deal before the game ended yesterday. So if I win, you get 25% of the pool, so we can kind of root together. You know what I mean?
Sure, that'll be a little bit more fun. Now, I'm sure you guys don't care that much about our fantasy matchup, but just a little excuse to why I'm a little puffy was from all the tears last night. Stupid Miles Sanders cramping. Anyways, on to
so DFS. Awful, man. I know I won, and I'm the benefit of it. But we talked about this yesterday, and this is fantasy for you. I think people like it when we go off on these tangents. Like, I don't feel good about that win because I am very certain that you would have won that had he not cramped. Now, you could say that about a lot of guys, but it's easy to say that when a guy on Monday Night Football, all you need is like 2 points. So I get it,
For cheesy. All right, guys, go check it out. Overlay Fantasy Sports. Love seeing you guys tweeting about this stuff and that you're winning money. Quick shout out to one of our group members who just signed up and started playing last week. I think he's won not the jackpot, but he's gone top 10%, I think 3 times now in like 5 days. So Daniel Allen, keep on killing it over there, which means basically constantly taking in that $180 pot off the $22 bet. It is feasible. It can be done. It cannot be done if you play like I played last night. But outside of that, it can be done. So go get some of that fired. Check them out. Overlay. You will have yourself some fun. I guarantee it.
Let's get it.
All right, guys. So we got a simple 4-game slate today. No football. Kind of a light day of DFS. In exchange for that 120 thumbs up or likes today, and we will do a members-only video for free probably tomorrow for a bigger slate. Real easy. Just click on that thumbs up button. So let's talk about tonight's game. And let's just call it like it is right away. We haven't even discussed the slate together at length. There is one super obvious game to focus on this evening. It is the Washington-Charlotte game. I'm looking at Brad Beal. Why? He's the best player in the best game tonight. Quite frankly, this game is like at least 10 points higher for a game total than anything else out there. It projects to be the closest one. You got 2 teams that don't play defense. Wizards want to move at pace. Charlotte's willing to move at pace when it's along with the other team that wants to play that way. They kind of piggyback off their opponents a lot. After 6 straight tough matchups, Beal's got to be licking his chops tonight to go after Charlotte. And one thing that maybe a lot of you guys probably haven't noticed, Washington didn't play yesterday. They don't play again until Saturday. Expect Beal, if this game is competitive, to play 40 minutes tonight in a game that's very winnable for both sides. I'm assuming you liked him, even though we haven't talked this one over.
How could you not like it? I mean, seriously, even someone like me that likes to be different, how can I not like it? The other part of this is I love picking on Washington. I love picking on Charlotte. It just makes too much sense, right? He's easily the best player in the top game. The only reason to get away from this game is ownership reasons, and even then, it's just so difficult. So I'm about it.
Right, because none of the other games are very appealing from a DFS perspective. I get some pieces from the Heat. They're a little undermanned, and they get, Atlanta. But this game is a very juicy spot for DFS points.
No doubt about it.
So you want to bring up the love child of Ray Allen, Steph Curry, and Reggie Miller, the best 3-point shooter in the world, Davis Bertans. Go at it.
I mean, is there another guy in the league that's a bigger heat check guy than Bertans right now? I don't know. He shoots with no conscience. He thinks he's the best shooter in a room, and that's all we care about, right? He is a little bit more expensive than he had been a couple weeks ago, but he's actually priced down what he was, the past couple games. Great spot for all of Washington. I'd play you if you were on the Wizards tonight. Bertans is one of their better.
Don't do it.
They need his offense tonight. The other thing about this game, while it has a really high total and I expect a ton of DFS points, I also think this game is really close because these teams are even. So I think Bertans sees, normal, if not a little bit of extra run. They need his scoring right now. He's really proven to be a part of this rotation. Rock and roll for me.
Yeah, I would not play me in men's league last week against a team even worse than Charlotte. I had 3 rebounds, 2 turnovers, and was 0 for 2 from the field. So I am not a solid producer of DFS points. Let's stick with the guys actually in the game. Bertans is averaging 36 points in the absence of Thomas Bryant. This is the best matchup he's had so far. The other thing is he's taking 12 and a half three-pointers a game. That is a buttload of them. And for a dude that can absolutely just make it rain from the outside, he is the antithesis of Philip Seymour Hoffman from Along Came Polly. Get Bertans in your lineup. This game makes a lot of sense, and he's definitely a piece that we're looking at.
Just do it.
All right, so I'm going to say this right now. Miles Bridges, this is on me. If it doesn't work, don't blame Matt. This is 100% Ryan's fault if it doesn't work. I am going to go back here for like the third time in 10 days. He was mediocre the one time I brought him up like 10 days ago, and then he was less than stellar last week when we wanted to use him against Golden State. He, again, I'll call it inexplicably. Maybe there was a reason I just don't know about, but he played his second lowest minute total of the season that night. Not something that I'm expecting tonight because the Hornets are very likely to not have Marvin Williams today, which is one of the other guys that plays kind of that combo power forward position like Miles Bridges. He is one of their young guns. We want Hornets Harlot. That's a combination of Hornets and Charlotte. We want Hornets exposure, but they are a difficult team to take a pecking order on, and a bunch of their guys are priced up today. He is not priced up. He is fairly priced, averaging right around 25 points, the 5K salary today. Crush spot for Charlotte, guys. The hardest part is picking out who it is that you want from them. And with no Marvin Williams today and Bismack Biyombo going back to a smaller role on the team, I feel confident that Bridges will see 25-plus minutes tonight. And if he plays 25 minutes, I expect 25-plus points.
Yeah, he was definitely a guy I was looking at hard this morning. I'm sure you knew that. How could we not be? It seems like he's kind of falling in this like pattern right now where he's on these, he plays a couple games and he's priced up a little bit and he's not great. And then he's on these smaller slates in a good matchup and he's priced down a little bit. And that's what we have here. Again, I love your point about how Charlotte is hard to pick guys from. Clearly, Graham has established himself as their best offensive player. He's, the most improved player, whatever you want to call him. He's having a great year. But outside of that, it's very murky. Bridges is a guy that does a lot of things. I love your point about Marvin Williams being out because my biggest issue with Bridges right now is that he's lost run the last two times I've used him. It's frustrating. That doesn't mean it's going to happen tonight, but it's frustrating. And like we always talk about, there's a mental side of DFS that it's hard to overcome,
Right, and like he plays almost 40 minutes last game. That is
Right.
the hardest part with the Hornets guys. Now, you brought up Graham. Graham and Rozier are the safest guys that will get run on their team, but they're both expensive today. Doesn't mean I don't like them, but they're both very, very, very pricey today. So it's not as easy to pick a guy like Rozier at almost 8K, right? We know his role, but that is a big price tag for a guy like that.
Right, because all of a sudden you use like Beal, not beer, but you could use beer too. You use Beal, Rozier, and Graham, and then all of a sudden like you don't have that much money to spend.
Well, I can tell you this much. After losing by you to 1.5 last night, I was using beer.
Locked in beer last night.
Yeah, I locked and loaded, and actually I decided to pay up the whiskey instead. But here we go. Let's switch over to the New York Knicks. Elfrid Payton. This is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. Why? Because Elfrid Payton has made y'all a lot of money and lost y'all a bunch of money. Why? Because that's just who Elfrid Payton is. Very much like Enes Kanter. When he's on the court, he can be a monster DFS player. And then for some reason, whatever the reason the coach has for that day, the coach doesn't like him anymore. Bad defense, not engaged, whatever it might be. So that's the problem with Elfrid Payton. But you like his GPP upside today. I can always get on board with the Elf GPP upside.
That's a great comparison, him and Cantor. I didn't really think about that before, but I think that's like right on par. So I brought up Elf this morning to you, and I didn't know how you were going to take it. I'm glad we're talking him out because there's a few reasons I like him here. So obviously you already touched on that. This is not a cash game play. This is not a guy you can trust.
But hold on, I'm going to stop you for a second. If you like him and have faith in him, he could win you a cash game by himself. So I'm not opposed to taking a shot like this.
Fair enough. I'm looking at him at tournaments. I didn't mean to say like you couldn't play him there. I'm more looking at him as a tournament play, but it completely makes sense. So for me, I watched a lot of this Knicks game. They played on Sunday against Indiana. One of the better games the Knicks have played all year. They fought from behind in the fourth quarter, and a big part of that was Elf. Played the entire fourth quarter, had like 20-plus DK points in that quarter, and was the head of the Knicks' big comeback. Now, they signed him in the offseason. We know that the Knicks, just like every other team he's been on, falls in and out of love with him. You mentioned it just like when you mentioned Canner. But right now, with him healthy, it looks like they're going to give him an opportunity. Doesn't mean it's going to last forever, but right now I think he gets run tonight, and that's all you can ask for. At 4,200, this is a guy that has 10x upside. He also has, 0x floor. He might not get off the bench, but I don't think he gets any love. I don't think people are buying in yet. And on a 4-game slate at under 10% owned in my eyes, I love him in tournaments.
I could always get on board with Elf, and occasionally.
You are an Elf guy.
What's that?
You are an Elf guy.
Well, he's won me big money before because when he plays well, he is a guy that has legitimate 10x upside. And then the coach falls out of love with him, which we've seen basically every place he's ever been. And then he doesn't play, or he plays 6 minutes a game. Then his price goes down, and you pick the right spot for him, and he goes for 48 DK points off of 3,900, and you're raking in big GPP dollars. And then the next day you play him in cash games, and he plays 8 minutes and has 4 points, and you're like, screw this guy. I don't want him on my squad ever again. It is who he is. I like the idea of using him tonight. We went into long detail about the New York Knicks the other day when we talked about the fact that they have a new interim coach for the time being. They got a lot of really mediocre pieces that don't fit together that equals a bad team, trying to figure out what it is. You would think a guy like Dennis Smith Jr. would see more run. He's not. They're trying to figure out where they're trying to go with this team. I don't think they really have any clue. I think they should let Elf get some run. They should definitely let Mitchell Robinson play all the minutes they can.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll see what their plan is. I like the idea of it. It's risky, but he could win you the slate tonight.
For sure. And I'm glad you brought up that risky point at the end because I just wanted to touch on this. And we talk about this a lot. I know you bring this up a lot. It would be easy for us to sit on here and just bring up 4 guys from the Washington-Charlotte game because that game is so much more appealing than any other game. It is difficult for me to bring up Elf to you, and I'm sure there was a little question mark about how much we wanted to bring Elf on here because his floor is so low. So people need to realize that we're not sitting here saying Elf is a lock here at 4,200. We just really like his upside.
I like his upside. Again, I don't know how many minutes he's going to play, but if he's in there, this is a guy that could hit value in 15 minutes. And if for some, unbeknownst reason that we don't really know what their plan is, he plays 25, 30, 35 minutes, which you never know with the New York Knicks, right?
Oh, no.
He could hit monster, GPP winning, bringing the Bucks kind of a game. Now, could he make us look stupid? Absolutely. And it's really easy just to talk about stars all the time.
Right.
And we want to bring up a guy like Beal because that's the obvious play. But again, we didn't touch on Gordon Hayward yesterday because everybody knew about it. So we have to try to, weigh what we want to talk about on a daily basis.
Especially this early, we've talked about a bunch recently. I'm sure more value will come out as the day goes on, but it's not out yet.
Right? There are very few guys you walk into a slate and you're like, you could 10x. He could.
Exactly.
And he could 0x. And if you guys maybe haven't taken math classes in a while, 0 times any number is 0. So it's not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Hayward goes yesterday, I don't think we'll get another play like that on the entire year.
No. And he was good. What did he end up with? 27, 28?
Yeah.
What was his ownership? I think in cash games, I don't know what it was in tournaments because I never looked at mine, but it was 95 or something % in cash games.
I don't think I've ever said only before a number like this, but he was only 80% owned in the big, $10 GPP, which I thought was crazy low. I did.
Yeah, especially when they came out and announced there was no minutes limit either, right?
Because it wasn't even about Hayward at that point. It was about basketball is so different because it's all about how much you pay off per dollar. It's different like that than in any other sport. So when you get value like Hayward, it just means you're able to spend up on other guys.
Exactly. You could get up to a Giannis or a Harden or something like that. Maybe you didn't want to play them, or it just made rostering Karl Anthony Towns all the simpler.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Thanks. Have a great day. We'll see you for some overlay in a little bit.
Thanks, guys.